Very good evening to all the participants who have joined us today for the 33rd episode of Teen Sawaal, Teen Questions with Dr. Sendil Kumar. Today, before we get into the session, we have Dr. V Kovaichelvan, Director of TVS Institute for Quality and Leadership. Thank you, Dr. Kovai, for joining us for this particular session on Facebook Live. Before we get into the session, I think it's very important for me to make few, housekeeping announcements per se as such, so that it becomes easier for many of you to kind of ask relevant questions. First and foremost, you can put all your questions on the Facebook chat box, and we will take up the questions as we kind of evolve around it, and then we will take up with Dr. Kovaichelvan and ask him to answer those questions. That's one. Second, this particular video will be available also on YouTube, ASK TLC YouTube channel, where it will be available, and you can go ahead and actually look at all these video sessions which we are trying to take up today as a concept per se as such. But before getting into the session, I think it's very, very important. Today we are in such a situation. Today we are in such a context where the children have started coming back to schools. After talking to schools, principals, teachers, one thing which is coming out explicitly is there is a huge learning loss which is happening right now in the schools. Children are struggling to write the answer sheets. Children are leaving the blank sheets during this particular whole process of assessment per se as such. Many schools are saying that children are not able to sit down in the examination hall even for 30 minutes, and which is impacting these particular, the whole assessment process. So my request to all the school leaders, school teachers out there is don't try to look at this particular assessment cycle. Don't try to use only one kind of assessment per se as such. Because we really need to understand that children have come back and they will surely take some time back. My request to all the teachers is that next 1 month, even this assessment gets over, children are moving into the next grade. I think you should be spending a lot of time on trying to come up with some kind of a bridge program, which can be based on those concepts which you think the children might have kind of lost during this particular pandemic time. Second important thing, I think a lot of hands-on activities really need to be done. As NEP says that you really need to spend the time on experiential learning. I think you must go back and start looking at experiential learning as a methodology. It is not trying to only take the children outside and then trying to bring them back and say that this is the right approach. But while all this is happening in the country, examination dates have been announced now, a lot of things are happening. But one thing which is kind of slowly kind of getting into the school education segment is implementation of new education policy as such. And when we are trying to talk about implementation of new education policy, a lot of small initiatives have kind of been visible. One of the very important thing which has happened and which is expected in the education space is all about competency based assessment or competency based education per se as such, which schools have to kind of follow it up. I think in India, the higher education institution, technical engineering institution, MBA colleges have already started the journey on this particular thing of competency-based education, but little experience in the higher education space. I think still the spirit of competency-based education is something which really needs to be understood properly, even before we try to kind of adapt into the school education space. But when I was thinking and contemplating about this particular topic, and we're seeing so many videos being available on YouTube and so many workshops being done across the country on the concept of competency-based education, I was kind of contemplating that whom I should get, who has experience in basically trying to evolve something specifically for higher education institution, B schools, vocational education institution. And that was a time when I thought that Dr. V Kovaichelvan is somebody who has actually implemented this with the higher education and polytechnic institution. Just to give you a quick brief about him, more than the present role, I think comes from a very small town outside Tiruvannamalai. traveled a huge journey, was a student of PhD Tech, did his master's at University of Warwick and his PhD from Anna University. And his PhD topic is also on management. Competency management. Just to give you a little more background, he worked with ABP, he worked with NTTF. Finally, his long stint has been with TVS Motor Company, and he will surely share a bit about his experience when I'm going to ask certain thought process. But most important thing is that he has played in multiple roles. So when he is talking about it, he has some experience from the design part of it. He has experience from people management, that is the HR perspective of it. Not only this, he has moved at different roles, and finally he was given the responsibility of starting the TVS IQL, that is TVS Institute for Quality and Leadership. And I think it takes pride that today this particular TVS IQL is certified as a corporate university by Global CCU, that is nothing but Global Councils of Corporate University. It has got its own recognition. But Dr. Kovai has been one particular gentleman who drove, if at all, if TVS Motor can talk about Deming Prize, I think he led that whole journey towards the Deming Prize. That's something very, very, very interesting. And that experience also kind of added to the whole process per se effect and the process. Just to give you a little more academic background about him, not cutting, there's a long thing, but I'm just trying to say, which is important for this particular topic today. He's part of the member of governing council member for multiple institutions. He's part of, executive committee of National Board for Accreditation. He's also a mentor and performance auditor for TechWeb, Technical Education Quality Improvement Project of AICT and World Bank. He also advises a lot of startups in the country and quite passionate about yoga agriculture. So before, welcome to this 33rd episode, Dr. Kovaichelvan. And I think it's a pleasure to get somebody who has worked not only in the corporate, but also in academics to share the journey towards this. But first and the foremost question, which many people ask, everything was going right in Indian education, Indian school system. Why are we trying to talk suddenly about competency-based education? So my first question to you is that you have traveled quite west till Finland, Singapore, Japan, across US, you've traveled across countries. And I would really like you to kind of focus on this particular point, that do we really need competency-based education in India, particularly in schools? Sure. With your opening comments.
Thank you, Sendil, and good evening to everyone. I think coming to this question, I think India is already lagging behind. I think it is already late. I think better late than never. I think this is the right time to start focusing on that. I'm very happy, such discussions are being organized, and many education institutions, universities, and schools are now seriously looking at the national education policy as well as competency management. So I'll share a few slides to give you certain evidence based on my research the last few years. So if you look at the economic progress of any country is linked to the quality of education. I think you take any country, I think I'm going to talk about Finland, Singapore, Japan, and Korea, and all these countries. All these countries have got a very robust education system. And if you take India, the employers are unable to hire at entry level with the required skills. And if you take the students and how they choose engineering or any other vocation is based on the parental or peer pressure, because of which they lack ownership for their career and continuous learning. I think whenever the graduate engineers come to our company, they all say, I finished my engineering. So that shows they don't have.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's more of finishing engineering than anything else. Okay.
So when it came to the companies, they have to invest heavily. If you take many companies, they take about 2 to 3 years. If you take our manufacturing industry, and by the time they get into the first role, they get ready. They are moved to the next role, or people leave the company. Then again, they have to be prepared for the next role. So always catching up only happens, because of which we are not able to get the effectiveness of the people. But if you take the countries like Finland, I had an opportunity to be part of a study mission to Finland And I also been visiting Singapore many times, working with Singapore polytechnics and also engineering institutions, and Japan, Korea. So if you take all these countries, if you take Singapore, it's a country which does not have any resources. They buy even water from Malaysia. They buy all the vegetables and fruits from the neighboring countries, Thailand and Indonesia and all that. Now, what is the resource they have? They have only the human resources. How to make human resources to contribute to the economic progress is only through education. So Singapore invested heavily into education, both school education and the university education. They have one of the best system in the world. And if you take Finland, when they were part of Russia and Sweden, and then they were somewhere in between, and they had to make a nation, they looked at now how do we build this nation as a unique nation. Then they decided that they will invest in education to make, that was their unique, the strategic call they have taken to make their country unique. Now today you can see Finland plays a major role in school education as well as university education. Same way, even countries like Korea, they have a very robust education system. Japan, traditionally, in Japan, one difference is, apart from the school, the parenting is very, very robust there. And managers in the company or in the other organizations, they play a major role. The managers are taken as a coach. They have an excellent ecosystem there.
Just a question here, because you made a mention about Finland and the investment, but the journey has not been in just a couple of years. The results have come. So when you try to talk about education shift, you will surely agree with me that they have also taken 40 years of time per se as such. There are two generations which have kind of taken up. And that kind of an investment, you will surely agree that I think in India also, we really need.
That's true. And when it comes to our country, the youth in fact, I've been researching on how do we look at the youth, whether they are a consumer or a contributor. How do we transition them from being a consumer to a contributor? If you look at now the education they receive from the school to the university, college, 17 to 20 years spent between the schools and the college before they start their career. The investment in terms of money, time, and effort, how much of what they learned is being used in life or career? I think many forums now I got a response, no single digit percentage, I think less than 10%. And how do we improve the effectiveness of education to develop contributors in our nation? I think that's a question. And then you must have known about Abdul Kalam's famous quote, dream, 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 and dream transform into thoughts and thought into actions. And then who influenced the dream of our youth? The parents, peers, then their aptitude. So not many people have a clear idea of their aptitude. Then what kind of goals they pursue, even if they have a dream. This is a stereotypic dream. So get into a job, buy a house and a car, and get married and produce children. And even doing that, they live in the future income because they're all getting loans from the bank, and then they also have a lot of EMI commitment. Whenever we do the placement in many B schools, no, they whatever offer we give, no, they look at what is the EMI and then what is the extra they have to need for living. I think that's how they look at it. And then dreams are also delegated. So all the parents and the students think getting into a good school, that school will make sure that they go to a good college. And once they go to a good college, then they think, no, they will make us get placed in a good company. Then they think company will take care of them. So what is the ownership for the dream? So the dreams are also delegated. So because of which, the employees, the percentage of employees who invest for their own learning is only less than 10%. I think all of them depend on company initiated learning program, training, and things like that.
And I think just to go back to that earlier slide, I think that's a very interesting, important slide, because in new education policy, when we are trying to go back and look at the new education policy, it talks very beautifully the learning world and world of work. Yeah. And that's where I think they are also talking very, very specifically the competency-based education. And as a HR, when you try to talk and I think this percentages really make sense that the 10% what you're trying to talk about really makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you can go ahead, please.
Yeah. So ultimately, an education should contribute to nation building with the quality of education. If you look at our country, 140 crore of people, whether they are asset or liability. So how to convert a liability? If you look at all the freebies given by the government across the country, that is all making them being a liability. It is only a lot of investment happens on them. But how do we convert them as an asset who can actually add value to themselves and the family and the country? And even youth in India are called as demographic dividend. So I always question dividend for whom? They are considered to be a consumer for global companies to sell their goods and services. So that's how they are looking at the demographic dividend. And if you look at now, my view, we have come out of the slavery from the British Raj, and we got independence and freedom. But today, now, if you look at businesses and brands, they are dominated by the companies from the other countries. So how do we really build our own countries, our own brands? I think if we don't have a strong education system, we can't build the businesses and the brands of, so make in India is fine, but we can't get only the overseas companies to come to India and provide employment. But how do we really create more startups, successful startups? How do we look at many Indian companies becoming multinational so that now we are able to grow the nation, we are able to get opportunities for our own youth? I think that's what needs to happen. I think from this point of view, CB is very essential for India. At this point of time, we are already missed the bus and we should catch up soon. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the competency-based education, what you said, that there is a need per se as such, but many a times what we have found out is there is no guiding principle. There is no standard, at least a template which can be adoptable by the schools per se as such. How exactly it needs to be done. Because when we try to talk about competency based education, you really require attributes, you require framework, you require people commitment, you require multiple things. And in your own experience, what were some of those challenges which you faced? What are some of the challenges which you faced during this particular journey? Because it's never easy for a corporate, because after working few years with the industry association, when we go to the institutes, and first question is that, are you going to, look at the employment? Are you giving us the job? Those kind of questions do come in. But what is your experience per se as such when you have kind of looked at, establishing or working with the higher education institution to adopt competency-based education? So what are some of your learnings?
Sure. In fact, I'll give you the context of why we had to move into that space of getting into the.
Can I stop sharing your screen? Okay, actually, you want to talk about it. Okay, you want to talk.
Talent with CBE. And if you look at post-90s, India went through a reform, economic reform, which created abundant opportunities, but in a highly competitive environment. So earlier, no, we were competing only with other Indian companies. Suddenly, we had to compete with best players in the world. If you take the automotive industry, where I come from, if you look at the products are not developed in India. So if you look, we compete with most of the companies are from Japan, Korea, and Germany, and they have their own product development centers in those countries. And even the manufacturing plants in India are set up by the global teams, and they have a large number of expats in India. For Indian companies like ours, we need talent which can be comparable to the development centers they have in Japan, Korea, and Germany. And we need a global team which can set up high quality manufacturing plants. And our leadership team should be comparable to the kind of high quality, the talent they get from their countries. So we adapted the total quality management, total productive maintenance, lean for business excellence towards our business excellence. And we focused on product and process innovation, continual improvement. And to do the product and process innovation and continual improvement, we need talent. Then we had to go for talent management. So as an engineer, I've been in manufacturing and product development. Suddenly, I moved into HR role. I saw the challenges of developing talent in companies in India. 80% of human resource development happens in the hands of parents, school, and the colleges. And gaps in those phases limits the scope in the company. So in the 20%, no, we can't influence so much. Unless we participate in the 80%, we can't get influence of good good quality talent in the 20% alone. So we decided that we'll have a skewed focus on higher education, and we call it as in manufacturing, we call the vehicle manufacturers who manufacture cars and two-wheelers. We are called OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. Then we have tier one companies who supply the parts to us. Same way, if you look at now the talent, the company need talent. The tier one supplier is the higher education. Tier two supplier is the school education. So we moved into the college education. And then I realized one more thing. I think there is a choice of learning. Either we can do and learn or learn and do. The example I give for do and learn is cleaner becoming a truck driver. And in the process now, they learn all the good and bad habits, not only in driving, but also in their life. And on the other hand, if you want to become a pilot, you have to go to a flying school, go through a private pilot license, commercial pilot license, and then get an approval from DGCA to become a co-pilot. And if you look at the number of accidents on Indian roads, one serious accident per minute and 16 people die per hour. Whereas in the aviation, in a year, no, there are only 2 to 3 fatal accidents and 340 people die. So I realized now the accidents happen in companies are also all called as Kaizens. Kaizen is continuous improvement. Okay. So this due to the misses that happens in the product and process, accidents during process and product development, or poor adherence. So even many accident happens because people don't adhere to the traffic rules and things like that. So again, coming to the robust solution requires both the domain and the tools. And if you look at, we go to the doctor when we have some ailment, then they do the general physician does some preliminary checks and refer to a diagnostic. Then we go to diagnostic, then the report comes, then the doctor looks at the thing, diagnose something, and then gives the prescription and then treat us. So in a problem solving also, we need both the domain and the tools. Doctor is the domain and the diagnostics is like tool. Any problem solving or innovation, the alternates between level of thought and level of experience. This is a model where if you see some smoke coming in, so we need to sense the problem and then look at from where it is coming, then we go and experience where it is coming from. Then that is about data and experience. Then we come back and then say why it has happened, root cause, and developing a solution. So the whole problem solving or innovation happens between level of thoughts and level of experience. For level of thought, what we need is the domain, and level of experience, what we need is the tool. So when I was in the village, we only had an RMP, registered medical practice, not even MBBS. Then after a few years, we went to MBBS. Now today, you go to a doctor, go to a hospital, we see specialists and super specialists. Same way, you look at now simple tools. They used to have only stethoscope, thermometer, and they will touch the pulse rate and things like that. Today, you can see very sophisticated thing. So even in our companies, now we need more specialists and super specialists. And we also need very sophisticated tools. So we sent about 400 engineers for masters and PhD in UK, Germany, Singapore, and IITs in the last 15 years. And we also started developing many sophisticated tools, white belt, green belt, black belt. This combination really helped our company to deal with innovation and the whole thing.
So you are suggesting that before you go to the next slide, I think there is a lot of need that you need to identify the competency requirement as an organization you have done, and then you kind of invested on those individuals where
Correct.
you found some kind of passion and then send them for these programs.
But the next slide, that's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
So till 2011, we used to be very reactive in our training, education and all that. So we used to give orientation for new employees and then some random courses and then some continuing education. Whereas when we set up IQL 2011, we structured competency mapping was done. We looked at the people in different roles and what are the kind of competencies required. We also defined the competency in multiple levels, and then we created courses. We can offer about 150 courses in the last 15 years what we developed. Then we also partnered with some polytechnics, engineering colleges and arts and science college. We used to go to the JNVs and KVs and other state board schools and mobilize students from all the southern states. We used to attract them, mobilize them. And we have selected them through an assessment center for 2 days for innate ability, which I will explain later. And then we also sent people for continuing education, and even for the shop floor people, the vocational education, the skill training was also given. The entire thing was structured around the competency only. In fact, the whole research was on that. That has started becoming very proactive. We used to be reactive in the past. That's what led to in 2018, we applied for a certification to corporate university. Then in addition to whatever we have established with the corporate university, we need to focus on creating cultural capability, creating collective capability, creating supporting business strategies, and also sustainability. So we have evolved from being a learning center to corporate university with the competency as the core of the entire journey.
So did you that means you had something first called as a competency framework got developed based on your organizational requirements?
Yes.
Okay, and just one minute, sir. I would also request participants, if you have some questions, you can keep putting it across, so that as the session progresses, in between I can take up questions like this, or at the end also we'll have time to take up the questions. Yeah, please. Sorry, you're saying about the
so the whole thing is about the role and the task to the competency and all that. So even competency needs to be simplified, so demystified. So in the next session I'll share about it.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, this is a journey I was explaining.
Not able to see your slides.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, fine. So now that is kind of brings into the, you would like to take up the other part, what schools must do, or you would like to share some of the work which has been done in the engineering colleges and B schools now? Yeah. How would you like to address?
I somehow for this discussion I want to keep it at a macro level. I didn't want to get into micro level.
Sure.
Maybe next one we can look at how the schools can approach this journey.
Sure. So just to make things easier for people, you heard that there was a need, then they worked on the framework, they tried to look on it, and then they moved into saying that, okay, this is the profile of, these are competencies that is required, and investment was being done. Now, one of the things which many schools keep asking is that at a micro level itself, that what is the role of stakeholders, and what are some of the messages for school that you would like to give? In between, there's already first question which has already come up today. What are the three competencies that we should need to bring in high school students? I think you will address them in the next part of the session.
We'll take it up.
Fine.
Yeah. I think if we want to really look at key steps in implementing competency-based education, the first step is to understand the key features of NEP 2020. There is so much of focus on many key aspects. There are principles, there are certain key features of that. Set up a task force to build processes and competencies. So this needs to focused work, and then we need to look at it. Even in our company, whenever we have to achieve some strategic objectives, we always look at a task force. Third is understand the concepts of competency and learning, which I will explain later. And then develop a process for developing curriculum with the CBE focus. And then teachers need to understand how to manage this competency environment. Then we need to develop the competencies of teachers to deal with CBE is the next one. Then we have to create some experiments, proof of concept. POC is a proof of concept, and learn from it and then improve continually. It's a journey by itself. And then develop a maturity model for CBE and keep improving. I think we need to look at where are we today, and then in 5 years time, where do you want to go? And then that can be a maturity model, and then we can see how we are progressing on that. So I'll now explain some of the key principles of NEP. So last 1 month, I've been going through the NEP in detail, and then I've taken very key items which are very, very useful to implement. So first, they are talking about they promote each student unique capabilities for holistic development. Whereas we are talking about a very stereotypic education. So how do we really give very unique, look at the unique capabilities and then holistically develop them? Second is flexibility. So not everyone need to learn everything, and learners should have the choice of choosing their own learning trajectories. Then teachers should know, parents should know, and the students should know how to choose these trajectories and what trajectories are available. So that's the second thing. So third is about multidisciplinary and holistic education. So today, now all the products around the world, they're all becoming very complex. The whole world is becoming very complex. There is no one discipline which can solve the problem. So we need multidisciplinary. In fact, we even need to go for transdisciplinary. I will show you what it is.
Okay.
Conceptual understanding rather than a rote learning. It's not a learning for the sake of examination and getting degrees, but it's about understanding so that we can apply and develop the competencies. Creativity, critical thinking, and logical decision making, and ethics and human and constitutional values, and life skills like communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience, and focus on formative assessment. I think the assessment itself is going to be one major chunk now which we need to learn in the entire CBA. Now, if you look at the key features, it's a competency-based, multidisciplinary, flexible curricular structure. That's one piece. Then improve students' learning experience, teaching learning process, experiential learning, internship. That's one more cluster. And then third is about assessment aligned to or learning outcome and testing higher order skills, not the lower order skills. And formative assessment is not meant for judging the students, it's for continual improvement of teaching learning process. And the last one, vocational education at all levels. I think that's another focus. I think I've captured some of the essence of it.
Yes.
And before we, yeah.
No, I think this basically gives the essence that we need to move away and do away with some of those rote learning practices to moving into more competency driven, so that they can actually get connected to the world of work very beautifully. And I think that's came out you have captured it very well. Yeah, please go ahead.
So then I want to show you some concepts behind the competency. So this from a research from few work done by people. So if you look at the potential of people, depends upon three factors. One is called aspiration, which is about like a dream, and the engagement is about the people do something to realize the dream. Third is about ability. The intersection of these three becomes the potential. And on the right side, you will see the iceberg model of competency. This is a very holistic view of the competency. So if you look at the tip of the iceberg, it is about the knowledge and skills, which can be learned, it can be taught. Whereas factors below that, attitude, self-image, traits, motive, these are all called innate ability. So it is said that we have to select people, or people must choose their vocation, choice of their studies based on the innate ability, and then learn the skills, knowledge and skills required for a career. I think that's a kind of a model. Then when it comes to what is competency, the competencies are predictors of performance and success. And if you look at the whole world today, you Google on any subject, people can get n number of the information on that topic. So the students can access. Then what is the role of teachers? Providing the context to the content. I think my simple definition is providing the context to the content is competence. So how do we connect the context to the competent? That's a role of the leader. And then that role, that context should be very close to the real life the learners are going to face. I think that's very important. And outcomes must be defined with the context of real life application. And then in the Finland also, one of the focuses, they teach the art of learning how to learn. I think that will empower the students to take charge of their own learning. I think that's one of the focus. There are certain enablers, what it takes to learn. I happened to attend one of the neuroscience professor from Harvard. I attended a master class in Singapore. So if you look at learning, attention and memory are very, very important for learning. So how people are able to pay attention while reading or listening, and then how they are able to remember that. And when it comes to memory, there are two kinds of memory, short-term memory and a long-term memory. Only during sleep, the information in the short-term memory is transferred to the long-term memory. And one more thing, dream also plays a role. So when we receive a new information, and when it is transferred to the long-term memory, there is already some information about the same topic in the long-term memory. So it cannot store layers of the information about the same topic. So it synthesizes the new information with the old information. That's when we get the dream. That is called
Correct.
Rem sleep, right? The rapid eye movement sleep that happens early morning. That's when the thing. So sleep is also important, dream is also important. Other enablers that make learning more effective is exercises, yoga improves attention, concentration and all that. Nutrition is important, water, drinking enough water is important, and the quality of sleep is important. I think when we talk about education, these factors also need to be kept in mind. Now coming to the domains of learning, this is one more, I think entire the competency-based education hinges around this concept. I think this is very, very important. And there are three domains of learning. First is called cognitive domain, which is about thinking that develop the intellectual abilities. When we talk about any concept like gravitational force or the specific gravity and things like that, we start imagining things and then we think about it and then we acquire those understanding. That is about the cognitive. There are 6 levels, that is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate. I think there are 6 levels. If you look at the competency, highest level of competency is people can innovate some new products and solutions. That is at a create level. Whereas now if you are at remember level, the rote learning is at a remember level. So if you have to convert that into any professional education, any professional education or even otherwise, we need to get into creating new solutions. That requires now people transcending from rote learning to the competency based. To go to the highest level, how do we really do that? That's where the context also is very important. So many times we acquire the intellectual abilities. Do we use it in our day-to-day life? The attitude that motivates us to use the intellectual skills, abilities is called affective domain. So if you look at now take the corona, the pandemic, so we all know there is 3 protocols, simple protocols were taught right from the beginning of the pandemic. So it's about the wearing the mask and washing the hands and also keeping the social distance.
Distancing.
All of us know cognitively that we need to do this. We know how the corona spreads
Correct.
and then how to protect us. But how many people do it? It's a big question mark. So unless there is a mandate, there is a
Fine.
by force, some punishment. I think that's how, even if you look at traffic rules, how many people follow the traffic rules? So having the attitude that motivate to do that is effective. So last 15 years, we have been doing research on cognitive. Last 3-4 years, we are spending a lot of time in understanding the affective domain, which talks about receive, respond, value, organize, characterize. So if you say corona spreads like this, so you have to follow the protocol. So we receive it. Then we respond, oh, is that so? Then we start valuing it. Then we start organizing ourselves that I'll always carry a mask with me. I'll always keep a distance. Then after some practice, it becomes a habit. Then it becomes characterization happens. So without a strong cognitive domain, we can't develop the affective domain.
So basics have to be right.
Yeah. Then comes the psychomotor. It's a body movements. It's like swimming or cycling or driving. So all this, very important. In the companies, whatever we do in the shop floor, the assembly or other operations, we use the psychomotor skills to develop the articulation, precision, and all that. Then comes the Bloom's taxonomy. I think the whole Bloom's taxonomy is based on the domains of learning. The taxonomy is a framework of educational objectives organized in a continuum. So it always consists of a verb and a noun. The verb describes the intended cognitive or affective process dimension. Remember, understand, all that. And noun describes the knowledge the learners are expected to acquire.
Acquire as part of it.
Yeah. So it can be at a fact level. So if you say capital of Delhi, capital of India is Delhi, it's a fact. Suppose if you want to explain what is a concept of capital for a country, then it becomes a concept. Then if you want to make some sabji and then you give a recipe, so that's a procedure. So we can have a procedure for doing any workflow procedure and all that. So an example of this kind of a thing is a student will learn to distinguish. Distinguish is the active verb. I think the verb has to be active. Cognitive process among non-federal, federal and unitary systems of government. That is about the knowledge part. So it's a combination of the cognitive or affect and the knowledge part. That's how the outcomes have to be, or competency needs to be defined. Then where do we get the competency from? For example, for engineering education in the country, India is a signatory of Washington Accord, which is an international engineering alliance. There are many countries have signed it. India is a signatory. So we adapted the 12 student graduate attributes. I think entire AICTE, all the engineering education, the institutions are expected to define their program outcomes from the 12 student attributes. If you look at now, it starts with engineering knowledge, problem solving, problem analysis, and then the design and development, investigation, modern tool usage, engineer and society, environment and sustainability, ethics, individual and teamwork, communication, project management and finance, and lifelong learning. I think these are the attributes. Each one is defined what it means. The institution can always adapt this and all that. So my suggestion also would be the schools also can adapt the similar attributes for the school from the NEP, also with the kind of environment that we operate in.
Yeah, this is where I have a very simple question, because this is a question which we keep asking. The affiliating boards, suppose in the case of AICTE, at least when they have defined these 14 in line with the Washington Accord, there is nothing which is right now available when we are trying to talk about the school education per se as such. Yeah. So what is your suggestion to these schools? Because this is where I think many schools struggle, that we have a vision, we have a mission, we are operating in a place in deep Karnataka. What is the attributes that they are trying to look at it? Is it a very location specific, or it needs to be a little more wider?
I think it can be wider and it can be customized to location also. If you look at now, when I went through the NEP, I see the environment and sustainability there, ethics there, and individual teamwork there, communication there, lifelong learning there.
Sure.
Okay. And the problem solving is there.
Yeah, instead of engineering knowledge, it can be subject knowledge itself,
I think you have to look at now on the domain part of it, how are you going to define it in a generic manner? It need not be very specific like engineering. We are talking about design and development here, but may not be in a school, it may not be very specific. So based on the thing now, I think it needs to be evolved. I think NEP is there now. I think few schools applying their mind and then they create a framework, then they can always talk to the government, and then this will get evolved over time. But we have to start thinking and putting something in place. Then it can keep evolving. That is my suggestion.
Sure. Thank you.
Now, then once we get the attributes and also outcomes, then we created a systems approach. So we look at now what is the input into engineering education or the retail education, and what are the kind of outputs. So one is the academic performance, it's called technical output. System output, now industry need very aspirational, highly engaged entry-level talent, whereas parents and students, they want employable and life skills. So we can look at these stakeholders' needs also, not only one stakeholder, we have multiple stakeholders. The output can be based on the stakeholders. And then input can be from a primary school, what we need to get in a high school, from a higher secondary school, what would they expect from the thing. So for example, we are not getting enough foundation from the school. We created a foundation test and foundation courses for mathematics, physics, chemistry, and English communication. Then we looked at assess the innate ability as the basis for selection. The technical and professional skills are derived from the Washington Accord and all also the job roles they will play in the company. Then we looked at now how do we look at the courses aligned to the program outcome, then elective courses aligned to the role, then the course map. I think then we have put the whole process in place. So while doing that, one of the things, if you want to really bring the outcome into reality, so we need instructional design. And all of us would have seen Bahubali movie. And if you look at our experience in the theater, and the superior experience of Bahubali is not due to the projector or the screen or the environment of the theater alone. In the back end, there are people who created stories, videography. Now animation is very, very powerful skill that is used. There are multiple skill sets, and there is a film institute and things like that. Even for entertainment industry, people invest so much to create that superior experience. Learning industry, we need much more than the film industry, right? So I think it is a teamwork. The entire instructional design is one of the processes, one of the methodologies called ADDIE methodology, which is about analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. So in analyze phase, we need to look at what are the needs of the learning needs of the student or the employee, whether it is cognitive, affect, or psychomotor, and what skills to be acquired. So the outcomes can be defined here. Then we have to design the content, the topic, and the methodologies. I think this is part of the design.
Sure.
So then comes the decision on learning activities, then the draft material, the resources, and the facilitator training. I think we call them as a facilitator. Then we deliver the course as planned. Then we do the assessment. So we can assess using formative and summative assessment. We also have what is called Kirkpatrick methodology, where there are 4 levels of learning effectiveness. First is the learning feedback, that is called reaction. Second is about learning, which can be done through formative and summative assessment. Whether that has been converted into behavior or application, that may be an affect domain. And then fourth is impact, what impact they create by learning this. I think we have got our people certified on Kirkpatrick methodology. Then if you look at the whole thing, the professional skills, soft skills, if you look at the 12 student attributes, 7 attributes are softer in nature. They are not hard engineering. So these are very, very important to students. So how do we really develop it? Starting from wellness. I think even the NEP talks about wellness. NEP talks about communication, then teamwork and interpersonal effectiveness. To survive and get things done, even in the personal life or in the professional life, all these professional skills are very important. And if you look at the 165 credits for 4-year engineering, what proportion are devoted to this? Very, very negligible. Even though they have adapted the Washington Accord, the justice in terms of number of credits for that is still not done. Okay. And one more thing.
This is where I have that major concern that when actualization of competency-based education in engineering colleges or in schools in future, are people going to be spending so much time on these areas, what you have mentioned on wellness, communication, personal effectiveness, and interpersonal and teamwork skills? Yeah. Now, this is something I don't know how it is going to be pushed, because still the score becomes the focus in India. I think you'll surely agree. Yeah.
Again, the credit and courses alone cannot develop the professional skills. My suggestion would be to get into a co-curricular, extracurricular activities and hobbies, or the opportunities to develop this thing. So we need to look at what all the various co-curricular, extracurricular, and then providing people leadership roles in those activities, and even people pursuing their own hobbies. It's very, very important to develop the professional skills. And today, the whole world is getting into transdisciplinary space. You look at there are robotics, drones, additive manufacturing, future of mobility, big data, artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, everything becoming smart cities, smart homes, smart connected and autonomous vehicles, e-mobility. I think when everything around us becoming smart, we should not become dumb. I think if we become dumb, then we'll not be useful in the future. I think there are a lot of jobs which will become obsolete in the future. So the employees also need to learn continuously and remain future ready. I think all this now going to lead into a new space. That is, earlier no, there used to be science separately, engineering, even within engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics engineering. Then it became a multidisciplinary, giving connections between them. Then like mechatronics is a combination of electrical, mechanical, electronics and IT. Now the new thing is going to be transdisciplinary, which does not have any boundary. You can see all other three models have got boundary. There is no boundary at all. So then we can't have people arranged with certain boundaries, with certain departments. They have to work in teams. Transdisciplinary is about a team and also having some idea, respect for people and all that. This is going to be the future, and then whichever country is able to make transdisciplinary talent is going to win in the future.
I just wanted to add here, I think at least the boards are now trying to talk about, if you try to look at the complete NEP's pedagogical framework, it is very beautifully expecting schools to kind of follow. But unfortunately, what's happening today on the name of interdisciplinary, they are trying to connect one particular topic and connect anything. Okay, we are integrating art, we are integrating music, we are integrating. They're not able to understand that big perspective behind this whole thought process. I think that's something which really needs to be kind of focused on.
That's where in Finland they use what is called phenomena-based learning. They're able to connect one phenomena across several subjects. For example, I have developed a course for agriculture, agripreneurship. In that, now the first module is on selection of crops. Selection of crop depends upon the one soil, water, then climate and the season. Third is about the market requirements. And if you look at now, we learn about soil chemistry in chemistry. Then we look at the climate and season in geography. Then we also learned the seed germination and plant growth in biology. So connecting all this now, the students can select appropriate plant for their kitchen garden. I think that's the kind of thing we can make the students to connect various things.
Yeah, that is something, that is one of the things which schools really need to kind of understand. And this requires a lot of investment on teacher training per se as such. First, because first they need to kind of have that thinking how to design such programs and then try to take it up. And I think you will surely agree with me, even in phenomena based, it's not that you take it for all subjects. How do you try to take the key themes or key concepts and then try to connect across subjects is something very, very
can start
important.
with very simple concepts.
Yeah. So
I think this is the last one. Dream is not that which you see while sleeping. It is something that does not let you sleep. I think we need the education providers, the leaders, and also the faculty to dream for your children and also dream for the country. Then we can actually make this happen.
Correct. So let me ask one very important question. Suppose if I'm a school, thank you very much for taking us through this particular presentation. I have few questions which have started coming in. One question is by Kamala Kannan says that, good evening, Kovaichelvan sir. What is the right age to look at the competencies in vocational subjects in schools? Can I switch off the presentation now?
Yeah.
Or you can pull it down?
I can switch off.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the first question is, what is the right age to look at the competency in vocational subjects in schools? Any age recommendation?
I think I see people even at 2 to 3 years helping their mom in cutting vegetables and doing some cleaning in the kitchen.
Okay.
I think the vocation need not be formally defined. It can be anything that they can do around their own homes. So the vocationalization of anything can happen as early as possible.
So that is the. So I think Kamala ma'am, you got your answer. The second question which has come up is, we have labs in school for subjects like physics, chemistry, etc. When it comes to vocational education subjects, which is your choice, the lab for the subject in the school or internship with the industry?
Yeah. See, before if anybody has to go for internship in the industry, they must possess certain skills to contribute. So the industry cannot become a learning ground from scratch. So schools have to prepare them to some level with which they can contribute in an internship. The internship cannot start from scratch.
Correct.
So
Basics should
I
be.
think we have to look at now the vocations that can be done in the school itself. School has got garden, school has got certain thing. I went to the one Japanese school during lunchtime. So they all were served lunch and they had lunch. Post that, all the students and the teachers have started cleaning the entire school, including the toilets. So housekeeping, it could be something to do with the kitchen garden, the whatever space available, it can be used. And they can also extend this to their homes. I think we can look at now some of the vocations around their own school and the home and the society. And then there is also Rotaract Interact Club. So they also get into service. That's what I was talking about, now co-curricular, extracurricular. So we can look at some clubs. And clubs can actually be used for developing some vocational skills. SAE can actually give a lot of support for the Society of Automotive Engineers. Okay. So there are many avenues which we can actually look at now, vocationalization in the school. And once they are ready, then we can look at now ITIs or polytechnics can actually engage them. Once they have certain attitude for vocation, attitude to contribute in an internship. Many times now when people come from the colleges to internship, they all come and sit in library in our own company. Right? So they come to this one, they can't even stand in the shop floor for 8 hours. Right? I think we have to create that attitude for internship first through the internal processes, then we can look at internship.
I think just want to complement whatever just you said right now. It is very important when you try to look at the new education policy and vocation. And my request to Kamala Kannan and Kanna as well as Usha Rama is if you try to go and read the NEP properly, don't read only that section of vocational education. Our problem is that we are very, very selective. What we want to, this is not a buffet, okay? This is not a buffet where you just go and like and pick up something. When it comes to vocational education, it is very beautifully defined that 6 to 8 schools have to expose children to various vocations every year. And that's where they have also set 10 bagless days, which schools have not been able to kind of understand. So this message, I would like to kind of use this particular forum to communicate it very clearly. Go back and start working for those 30 days in 3 years, exposing them. Then in 9, 10, 11, 12 is all about internship. It's all about internship. And the internship is not a standard internship, 6 months you go, you work and come back. It only talks about 15 days. And one request to all the schools is that suppose if there is a plumbing work to be done, don't get a plumber to come to your school and show him how to test. The children have to be taken to a place where the plumber is working.
Works, yeah.
Correct.
And I think one of the thing, one challenge is dignity of labor.
Correct.
I think as a country, we need to develop the dignity of labor. I think that needs to be inculcated. That's what I liked in a Japanese school. So
even in Finland, when we went, I think
by the children, do you think now our parents will be comfortable clean the children cleaning the toilets?
So there's a lot of cultural context also to some of these things. So I think when you try to talk about vocational education, you don't have to look at it. And as he rightly said, you don't have to look at only vocations from the perspective of plumbing, electrical, and this. Everything else, he said again, very interesting as example, Dr. Kovai. He made an example of saying that how do you start from home itself at a small age? It can be, peeling off peas itself at home. That's how you can use from the academic perspective, fine motor skills and all those things. You can use it from one perspective, but you really need to work on. And the 9, 10, 11, 12 is, I think, something which I wanted to kind of complete is that you really need to go back and identify, areas, your own parent community. You don't have to go around and ask industry. No. Now, this one question which Usha Rama asked is, industry internships are not available for school students. Any tips how to work around this? I think, Usha ma'am, you really need to start working first with your parents. If your parent community, you have not been able to segment them properly and work with them, I think it's not going to work. Your input on this particular question, internship for schools not available, any tips on it?
In fact, many times when we used to work with engineering colleges or polytechnics,
Correct.
I used to encourage teachers to come for internship first. Or when we take interns from the students, we expect the the teachers to come, because they also need to connect to the workplace, reality of workplace, right? And when it happens during vacation, not many teachers were willing to come and spend that kind of time in an industry. I think even in industry, they can't be like a supervisor and going around the students. They have to also work, no?
Correct. They are not there on a Bharat Darshan or something like this. Okay, I think the message is very clear, Usha, Rama, that we really need to understand this perspective, that the teachers themselves need to be first exposed to such an environment, and then only they will be able to motivate children to take it across. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So you really need to kind of be with the students per se as such. And second challenge, one more thing, any tips particularly why industries, because this is one question which keeps coming even from higher education, school education, and you have been with the corporate world for some time. What is your thought per se as such when it comes to internship and education institution? Where exactly the gap comes in?
We need partnering. Okay. It cannot be a standalone. I think institution to industry, we need to build partnership. Again, when I passed out from the state of Tamil Nadu, there were only 1,200 seats of engineering. It rose to about 2.5 lakhs, and then now it is about 1.2, 1.3 lakhs. The big companies alone cannot provide internship. So when we talk about internship, it can be to a neighborhood, the mechanic shop. It can be neighborhood plumbing, wherever it is happening. It can be to a even the corporation does a lot of the work. So we need to figure out, no, internship need not be to a corporate, a large company alone. We need to look at small, the
logistics services.
It could be even to a kirana shop. So how the whole business happens in a kirana shop. So I think we need to look at multiple enterprises. It could be a micro enterprise, small enterprise, medium enterprise. I think the school need to look at now the mapping the ecosystem around their school, and then going and talking to those enterprises, and then see how some arrangements can be done. Then preparing the attitude for internship with the students. So looking at the dignity of labor, how they have to behave themselves when they go for internship. I think that also develops the culture of their behaving properly in an internship and things like that. It needs certain putting a process in place, preparing the students, preparing the employers, preparing the teachers. I think we need to work together. Once we know I think if we send 2-3 batches to a company and they create good value to them, don't you think they will get more people in the future?
Correct.
Yeah. So how do we then sell this concept of internship to the employer? They are willing to receive the internship year after year. They should be asking, when are you sending the students next time?
Correct.
To make it happen, who is the responsible for making it happen?
The school.
Yeah.
The school, the individual. So that puts me to the last question. What do you suggest is the role of the stakeholder starting from school management? And that's going to be my last question for today, because we're running out of time. But I think what do you think is the role of the school management, the principal, the teacher, the parent, and the student in making competency based?
The opening up of economy happened in 90s. The writing was on the wall. Whether the company will survive or not depends upon how we are able to compete with the global players. And for which the first thing is the quality of products. For which now we adapted the Japanese TQM, we got some mentors and we started learning. And then our chairman had a vision to make our company as a robust global player. Then we got into TQM, TPM, the whole journey, business excellence journey. And then CAA also, the entire CAA brought a lot of experts. And then we had the quality summits every year that used to be led by people like Mr. V Krishnamurthy, Mr. Anand Mahindra, Adi Godrej, Mr. Ven Srinivasan. So all these leaders were leading that quality movement for industry. So today Indian industry is at this level because of that investment they have made. So start with the leaders, the leadership or ownership, the owners or of the institutions need to take a lead, and they must have a vision for this education. It's not a national vision, it should be an institution vision. Then aligning the senior faculty members and other people into this vision, and then creating the capability for that. It's a journey. I think it's a roadmap people have to create, because ultimately quality of education is quality of products. So if you don't make quality motorcycle, then we'll not be in the market at all.
Correct.
So competition and
so competition compelled you, but what is your message to the managements first of all?
Management is about creating a vision for contributing to this nation building. I think it must be a noble cause. It is not a commercial cause alone. In fact, ultimately in our business also, unless we have a noble cause of national development and create quality and create a global quality, then our survival, our growth will be enabled by that. I think quality of whatever we do, we have to create value to all the stakeholders.
Sure. So that's for the management. The second is school leadership team, the principals, the HODs. What is your advice for them to make?
And then adapting the NEP, and then creating the roadmap for CEP, the competency based education. I think that's the next thing. I think the leadership team need to lead the whole thing.
Okay.
Third is then how they can set up a process and the competency training for the teachers. I think they have to get trained first. And then one more thing is the research. I think one of the role I would give for the top people is this should not be done without a research. Ultimately, research is about when I do something, I must get some outcome, right? So even competency-based education itself should be done to achieve something. Am I achieving it? Then if I'm not achieving, then what should I change? That's like we call it as plan, do, check, and act cycles.
PDS,
yeah. I think that is what the top leadership.
So the message for the leadership is very, very clear. School leadership teams is that invest time first at your level to do research along with your core team of your school. I think there's nothing called a task force per se as such when it comes to academics. Here, more people try to believe is core team. So invest with your time, effort on core team and tell them that wow, exactly. So first and the foremost thing is that the leadership team themselves must undergo the whole process even before asking the teachers to.
Yeah.
Your message to the teachers.
Yeah. I think teachers should see whether they are going to complete the syllabus or they want to create some value for the students. I think they have to elevate themselves whether I want to complete the syllabus in a particular period of time and then conduct exams is my role, or do I want to create some value which will be useful to this the students, the families, and the country, the society and the country. I think they need to really look at now what do I contribute? Is it only completing the task or contribute to the larger purpose? I think larger purpose should be the driving factor. It's not about another stereotypic occasion to earn some money for living and things like that. It should be beyond. Purpose is beyond earnings for living. I think that's very important.
Okay. The last message, the two more key people in making all this happen is one is the parent, and then I'll come to the student. So what's the message for the parents?
I think parents know we need to bring some reality to think. I think we need to conduct this is a major change. I think even when we went to Finland, every 10 years they do the new national education
curriculum framework.
I think that happens with a lot of workshops with all the stakeholders to make the transition happen very smoothly. I think we need to also conduct workshops for the teachers, the parents, to really know what is NEP is all about, how the school is shifting their focus. The parents will be what they are today unless they also go through some change. So I think one of the things we have to influence them to look at this direction, because they should not be looking at only the short-term focus of learning, but they have to look at the long-term holistic development, how they will become a better child. In fact, when we have done the collaborative education program with the polytechnics, every year we used to have a parents workshop. I used to tell them the ultimate aim of this program is to get you a better daughter and son, to get you get this school, this college, a better student. and get the society better citizen. And ultimately, if all this happen, getting a good employee to our company is not a problem. That's a effect of all these things happening.
Yeah, because see, at the end of the day, we may talk about all the competencies, but when it comes to the scores, the parents again will go back and kind of look at it. There are a couple of more comments which have come up quickly. Minimum levels of learning required can be structured sort of rubrics before we move to the industry from institution with reference to skills, knowledge, and attributes. Effective implementation of NEP, that's what would be the partnership. Thank you, Nidhi, for looking at it. Lata also, Srinivasan Lata says that invest time for quality work, great message. A very true purpose beyond earning a living. The final message to the students on competencies, because as a HR, these you also for some time wear the role of a HR, and then advise the students what is the message for the school students.
I think now last 4 or 5 years, I've been working on this concept from youth from being a consumer to a contributor. I think even next week there is a session for the MBA students in one of the colleges in Coimbatore. They asked me for a topic. I've told him I would prefer this topic. So in the process, making them a contributor, I think when this transition happens, and many people know when they, I think the attendance not being compulsory in the schools and colleges, how many students will turn up to the class?
70. So there is a discount, there is a fee, there is a fine, everything.
I think if we really do a proper competency-based learning in the classroom, I think students will be better engaged. They will also know the larger purpose why they are learning what they are learning, and they will be able to connect to the purpose. And if they are also engaged in the post-learning, the projects and things like that, activity-based, project-based learning, I think they will enjoy. And then one more thing, the project-based learning is today outsourced to the parents and also to some of the shops here.
And there is a shopkeeper who has a shop outside the school.
Project itself should be conceived such that they will be able to build it, and then they are able to enable. And parents also need to enable them, not substitute for them. I think the true competency-based, which we have also seen in Finland, the students will enjoy. And once they get a taste of it, then they will not be looking at anything else. I think we need the tasting, that creating a POC. That's what I was saying, experimentation with few courses. And the students taste it, and then they will also like it. And then there'll be the word of mouth and all that can happen.
Sure. So I think the message is very loud and clear. So Usha says very productive session. Just to sum up from my side, I think it makes sense that CB is here to stay, whether you like it or not. CB is here to stay, whether you like it or not. It may take a longer journey, maybe in the initial stages with compliance, but over a period of time, when everybody have to kind of comply to it, I think it's also going to be important for people to understand how exactly they're going to take it to their respective campuses. But the thought process, some key messages, what I have been able to kind of scribble out it, define something, what are the attributes for your own school, the location, the aspiration of the management, the parents' aspiration, come out with a framework. And I think the message which came out from Dr. Kovaichelvan was very simple. There are generic things which are available. Let the CBSE, ICSE or other boards, let them announce whatever they would like to do it. But you have defined your own vision. Why don't you look at others and try to see that what can be adapted to your own scenario and start defining from the attributes. So invest on defining the attributes, then trying to see then try to see that how exactly you can kind of integrate some of these things as part of your practices per se, as to make sure that these attributes are achieved through those practices in your school. The third important thing is that I think sharing, that came out quite a very, very important thing. Sharing in terms of your expectation with your parents, sharing your expectation. That's what he said when they had to go back and ask the parents. They also need to kind of engage. I think that's where the stakeholder engagement is going to be very, very important. And the step 4 is going to be, once you start getting the success over a period of time, even parents will start aligning to what you are aspiring to do. But what I can say, there is a huge shift thanks to NEP, thanks to the new thought process which is being brought under NEP 2020. But at least a design wise, and quite, as a practitioner, I think it's very, very important that we really need to go back and invest on it. But today you heard another practitioner, Dr. Kovaichelvan, who shared his own experience with his own organization, how they have been able to kind of require. But in their case, I think we are in much more comfortable zone because we don't have a competition, and it is more a seller related service, not a customer related service. In their case, you saw that there was a pressure, there was a market pressure, there were a lot of requirements to survival. So I think if our students have to go out and survive in the market, I think we really need to kind of make sure that our practices strengthen our children to go out and stand and exhibit what we are able to instill as part of the whole journey. And this will make the journey of learning world to a world of work very, very smooth. And this is something which is going to be very, very interesting, which all of us have to kind of work together. Thank you, Dr. Kovaichelvan, for taking time off on a Sunday.
I wish everyone all the very best for your journey. It's a long journey, but it will be an exciting journey. And maybe 5 years from now, I will listen to a lot of success stories from all of you. All the very best.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we would surely come back to you and disturb you whenever we need some kind of a support, and the schools which have kind of participated in today's conversation, if there are like-minded schools which are there, we'd invite them, come together, let's work together and create and tell the whole world that, okay, these are certain things which is a reality. So my last statement is right awareness is the key. So don't just get out and then try to see some control C control be done from somewhere. That's where I think Dr. Kovai said, research, research, research. With that particular note, I think the session made the objective actually kind of got achieved of communicating the right awareness towards making competency-based education in India happen. Thank you very much. Good evening. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.